We are HGA Fundraising. We help nonprofits raise more money with the most profitable auction items in fundraising. I am Sandy Hilsenrath. I am part of the advancement team here at HGA. And normally I ask Trevor to introduce himself. Trevor, are you good?
I think, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Hey, thanks everybody for coming. Really appreciate it. My name's Trevor Nelson, one of the co-founders at HGA, but appreciate everybody coming in. Happy to be here today. Don is a friend and a absolute fundraising juggernaut, so I'm very excited about this episode to have Don and share this time with him and Sandy again. So yeah, good stuff.
Don's going to be talking to us, as you probably know, about getting back to basics and really getting to grassroots fundraising and how that can help support your efforts. So, Don, if you want to give us a little bit of background, I was telling people when I was describing him, like, well, he's music teacher turned fundraising guru. So, tell us a little bit about how that happened.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here. If and I see some people in the chat that I actually know and are local to me here, so it's cool to see that and hoping to make some new friends here.
Cool.
But it's interesting. There's education, and then there are people that coach and teach music, etc. And there's so much money that goes through schools, and something that I hope is a big takeaway today is that schools will fund the expected, but they don't often fund the exceptional. So, for example, if a music program, it's required for them to put on 3 concerts and have some instruments, most of the time, the school will fund the instruments for it. They'll fund the space. That being said, if you've got just a killer program that gets to travel somewhere, that's exceptional. Right. So you often have to find that money somewhere. And we'll see that often with sports teams sometimes. Right. You'll see that online, like, hey, help us, raise money to go see this, go to this tournament to participate, et cetera. So with my experience in schools, I've been in education, I think, close to 20 years now. And a little bit of my time is spent teaching. And the rest of the time is spent on inventory, and it's spent managing, all the people that we employ as staff. But probably the largest part is literally finding money or raising money. So that's how I got into this. I've worked in a few different school districts, and the first school district that I worked in, it was a smaller one, but we needed somewhere around 15 grand for the music program. Mm-hmm. And I found out later we needed about 20 grand because if I remember right, the previous person before me had already spent this year's budget. So, I did what I do and talked to a bunch of people. We'll get into the details of that. And I went to person in charge of budgets, and I actually gave them kind of a line item. And I said, hey, we need $100,000 for the program. And in a nicer way, they said, are you nuts? That's our budget for all of these programs here. Okay. But again, I want 15, 20. And that person, then we sat and went back and forth, and they went, is 25 okay? Is 25 grand okay? And I learned from my brother who's in sales, like, hey, if you get an answer, let's go to right away. Let's escalate. And so 25, okay. I went, if we can do 30, that'd be great. And I'd leave you alone. Right. So we got the 30. I mean, it came from all different sources. And that ended up being that plus anchor campaigns and plus small, just scrappy fundraisers we'll talk about. Ended up being something that I repeated over multiple school districts. So with the current program that I have now, myself and our organization, we've raised $100,000 for the group twice. I've helped other groups raise a bunch of money for their trips, for their instruments, in terms of, and that's just the school area of the clients. So I find it kind of fun in that sense. I know some people get a little, when it comes to money. But my motto is essentially there's always money somewhere. And for those people that are a little bit, skittish about that, to me, I'm like, I'm never asking for money for myself. I'm asking for money for the kids of the program. And in turn, that's just going to make our community so much stronger.
Yeah. I like the quote, you're not asking them for money, you're asking them to take part in something meaningful.
Absolutely.
So I think that's, what you're getting at, Don.
Yeah, that's why this supersedes just school fundraising, frankly, because your approach, and you've built this when you've coached so many other nonprofits as well to do exactly what you've learned just by rolling up your sleeves and doing it in real time. You said something fascinating on our last conversation. You're like, hey, anytime I ever needed money or we needed to raise money, no one ever, because I want to get in the Scrappy fundraising, the fundamental piece and getting back to basics, right? And how it applies to all nonprofits. But you said something really poignant where you said, no one's when I've needed money the most, or an organization I've been working with needed money the most, no one ever just dropped a big bag of money at the time.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Let us know in the chat if anyone has ever dropped a bag of cash on your porch. And chances are, if that happened, like you might want to run. All right, that's going to come with some ulterior motive somewhere.
Yeah. No matter how big or how small, your approach seems like it's the same. The fundamental approach and how you tied into, even like you're talking about school, it's like it's going to better the community. Yeah, where did that come? I mean, that just come from reps. I mean, where did this come from, Don?
Yeah, I think it's part of it is and I can't remember if I've talked about this on this podcast, but part of it is if you grow up doing some sort of activity, if you're in baseball or in music or something like that, your world is reps. And for people that don't, like you'll send a kid to baseball practice, they're not playing full baseball games at their practice, right? They're catching grounders for an hour, right? They're just doing batting practice. They're throwing pitches. So as a musician, it's pretty much the same thing. We're going over small, little insignificant details, as it seems, for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, for potentially playing a 3-minute piece at some point, right? Like I love data. So I started looking at the data practicing like when I was younger in high school, and I would spend 12 to 20 hours practicing a piece that was 3 minutes. So I don't know what the return is on that. Like, for every person that claps, do I get $1? I don't know on that. But as it comes to, what we're doing today, like translate that to everything else, translate that to the phone call that you have to make, to speak to a donor. And to your point, Trevor, the scale of it, I was talking with a contact that I just made the other day, and he works for the Catholic diocese out here. So my largest single gift has been $100,000 so far, and that took me 7 years.
Wow!
Right, and because there's that part of it, that's the time. We can do 10 to 50 in a shorter amount of time, but from a single donor to get $100,000, that took about 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And I was talking to him about it. He's like, "Boy, I'm so proud of you, etc." His biggest gift was $33 million. I said, "Okay," and but the time of it
How long did
was
that take him?
17 years, right? So when I
go.
told him about 7 years for $100,000, he's like, "That absolutely tracks."
Yeah.
Right. And it is that relationship. And it's fascinating because I had to go back on some of those items and see what was happening. What happened to make somebody want to support our program? And often it was, I spoke about it. This was the need that we had, right? This is how much money we would need to make that happen. And these are how many kids or how many programs will be affected by this. And then this would be the long-term plans of it. I told everybody that I could about it. And then you just have to find, this is the hard part, right? It's like playing the lottery in that sense sometimes. But, for us, or I thought it was playing the lottery. But then when I look back on it, like, no, this was it. We spoke to people about it. We had to develop that trust. That's the thing, too. You're not going to get these large gifts from people that don't know anything about you or anything about your program or your community. There has to be some trust there. But that went from everything to, like I said, some maybe a $10,000 campaign to help a group take a trip to, setting up a seed fund for lessons and coaching for low-income kids.
So it sounds like then, just picking up a couple bullet points in there. So, they should focus on a need. And I heard, vision, right? You shared the vision of what their impact could be and what the vision is for the program.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it has to be something that people that are involved with this can see. So For example, again, the one where we got a large donation, that was to fund private instruction for music students in a low income area. So we needed to find somebody that, number one, understood in a low income area that, hey, these students still have value and these students really are working hard and they just need the opportunity. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's that part of about, aligning the donor in that sense. We also had to get somebody that believed in the program. And this happened to be somebody who had a kid in the program. Also, they were an alum of the district years ago, right? Okay. So we had to find somebody with the trust there as well in that. And then as I look back on it, and it's interesting as I talk about this person's a personal friend. And, because there was never this intention, to get to get this donation. But this person's a personal friend, and it was one of those things of like, how would you treat a friend, right? So whenever that person needed anything, if I could help them, I would help them out. If I could direct them in a way that would help them, great. If I knew that they liked a certain something, a certain candy or a certain flower, if it was their birthday, and it's as simple sometimes as reaching out and happy birthday, hey, thinking of you, etc. So to be honest with you, I know I've said, hey, no one ever just leaves a bag of money on your porch. It felt like that at first because I didn't realize over that 7 years that I thought we were just speaking as friends and colleagues. I didn't realize, I was auditioning our program for, what would be a very, very large gift.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like getting back to basics, kind of like one of the themes. It's like, it just sounds like great fundraisers that I've met, you included, say things when we ask them to like, hey, tell the story of how you got here, kind of.
Yeah.
They say, like the best fundraisers, and I hear you say this as well, say, I just talked about what we were doing to everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone that would listen. And like you said, it's like, I was just looking to make friends, build, obviously you said trust, relationships, all these things. These are not cliche things in fundraising. As a matter of fact, they're overlooked. Mm-hmm. And I also, another thing is, and I'm not trying to give folks any bad news here, but it also is a process that you have to be very, very patient in, because it takes years to develop these skills, and it takes years to have a sufficient amount of conversations to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. To find these people. So it's not something that happens over time. You don't become great at baseball or great at an instrument. Typically, we're not, Jimi Hendrix, right? Or what have you, But I once again, back to that point, and talk to this, Don, too, and how you coach folks. It just, once again, you talk about what you're doing to everyone that will listen. The Uber driver, the person at the grocery store, your friend, your neighbor, someone, an alum, you know what I mean? It's like, you cast such a wide net in this, in the data piece of things that we're, with our CRMs and the this and that. And talk about, how folks can focus on that when they can probably get distracted with other things where they can really lock into, this is our story, this is what we're doing, tell them, give the message, but say it 1,000 times. Why
exactly.
Focus on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, it's interesting too, because we started off talking about the $100,000, donor. I'm sure if there's anybody that's in the schools right now listening to this, they probably roll their eyes and they're like, cool, I get it. I'm selling candy bars right now. We don't have that connection. Right. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that there's not something out there. So, what is that process? Because again, we always like this to be practical. And by the way, anyone that runs a business out there that's wanting to get into the schools, a lot of this stuff can help, right? Trevor just said CRM. Nobody in the schools knows what a CRM is. Right? They do have, and this is where it's a little bit of language switching. They do have, however, their Google Sheets with their alumni, for example, right? So sometimes it's about knowing that language, but when it comes back to that process, there's a little bit of understanding, as I said, first off, about maybe what that vision and that mission is. So if I could really hit home to people, we want clarity in what you're asking. So if I say, hey, our kids have been working really hard and deserve a trip, you're probably going to go, okay, well, my kid too, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of this is, how do we get somebody to care about the kids in our schools or the programs that we're working on that have no connection?
Right.
And the bad news is sometimes you're not going to, which then we have to
Mhm.
get them excited about the item or what they're getting, right? Because that money, as long as it's legal and ethical, is going to look exactly the same there. But we have to get them excited or at least clear about some things. So if our kids have been working really hard for the trip is one thing. But if I say, hey, $225 sends one kid to DC for 4 days, hotel, meals, museums included, right there, I've started to hone in a little bit more, right? I've put a dollar amount to it. I've shown that trip to somebody in their head, just a touch on that. So as I said too, that next part of it then is something I mentioned at the beginning, which schools are going to cover what's expected and not the exceptional, because I'm really big on prepping for objections. And that's where, Trevor, you and I first talked about, and that's where candy bars come in.
Yeah.
So the objections that you're commonly going to get in schools, and I think this is helpful for, again, anybody that's got a kid or that runs a program or that is even looking to do business with schools as a vendor. The objections that you're often going to get are a couple of, basically these two or three. The first one I often get is, what are the kids doing to help themselves? Right? Because we're getting a lot more people that are starting to say, hey, I don't want to give a hand out, but I do want to give a hand up. And for us, that's where some sort of fundraiser that the kids are actively involved in helps. And I don't care if it's candy bars or butter braids or they're selling scented light bulbs, whatever it is, they have to say, we have to be able to say, hey, thanks for asking. The kids are selling Fannie Mae chocolate or something at this point. We're running the fundraiser twice. They're working their butts off. By the way, if you haven't heard about it, hey, I'm going to tell that kid to come to your neighborhood, because obviously you're not pounding the pavement as much, but there's that. We would then have something that's a little larger. Maybe it's a spaghetti dinner, or it's something, field painting, whatever it can be, that the parents can get involved with and that the community can see as well. And sometimes we'd even do some community service with that, right? Last year for our spaghetti dinner, we said, if you can't make it, can you donate a dinner to the local shelter? Order it through there. So then we started, I think we got an extra $500 or $1,000 for that, right? So we get those objections. The other objection that we'll have, again, is, shouldn't the school be required or funding this? And that's, as I said before, we never want to make the school look like the bad guy, because there will be some program directors out there. There'll be a basketball coach. They're like, yeah, they fund volleyball, but they're not giving us $1. You're not going to make any friends with that. All right.
Right.
So that's, as I said, where if we can kind of have that line of, hey, great question, this is what the school is funding, right? So we had that with some music programs. They're not funding us at all. I look into their financials. Actually, they are. They're spending $12,000 a year on buses for you. And I know that because my friend's school, he has to raise money for his own buses.
Wow.
So we're not trying to, fizzle things out, but we do want to show people, no, schools are supporting this. And that's kind of another objection that we can get through. But after that, that's where we can start getting our campaign going. The other part, I would then say, working with schools, and this is anybody that's working in a school, and anybody who wants to work with schools, is permission. Right? We want to get permission. We have had a couple of fundraising people that have spoken to me over 3 or 4 years, and finally I said, hey, maybe this is the time to work with us. We then had the fundraising people that somehow got through security in the school, which is a big no-no, especially today, and showed up and interrupted a teacher's class. That's the quickest way to absolutely never work with that school. So we're looking at, of course, getting permission. And because when I say get scrappy, like, hey, that means you got to roll your sleeves up. But in that sense, to get scrappy, I think that is going online, reaching out to the program director, finding out who their board is, okay, speaking to somebody at school that makes those decisions.
Sure. So
we get that permission going. And then after that, as we said, we are telling everyone that we can. My practical system with that, if we're doing something on social media, anybody that likes it, I click on their name, I send them a message. Thanks so much for supporting this. Hey, if you know anybody that would like to support this campaign, can you please let me know? And you got to be used to either no's, or you have to be used to your friends not responding to you. Because for every 10 messages I'd send out, I would get 2 or 3 that would say, absolutely, I'll share it. And then I would get 4 or 5 that wouldn't say anything. And then I get 1 or 2 that would say, hey, I donated. Here we go. And of those 100, 150, it sounds like a lot of messages, but look at your phone. You probably have thousands of contacts, right?
Right.
That's where we've been able to do things like raise, for a school, it's big money, raise 10 grand in a week, for a trip. We had the orchestra at my school, just for fun. I said, I'll work with you. We're not going to charge or anything, right? They needed a commission. They wanted to pay for a new piece of music for that group. So we raised 5 grand for that group in, I think, 5 days or so. And it was that system of, here's the objections, here's what we need. And that was a great thing too. Piece of music, everybody gets to enjoy that. Well, I don't play an instrument. Cool. Come out to the premiere. It's August 15th or whatever. You can sit there, come up and say hi afterwards. What if I donate $1,000? We're going to give you a signed copy of the score from the composer. I'm going to buy a frame from Amazon and bring it to your house, right? So it's about making it about that donor.
So good. I hope folks, I'm cutting you, hold that thought real quick, Sandy, but I hope folks that are listening right now and hope folks that are listening to this as a recording understand that we call it like scale the unscalable, right? That hand-to-hand, that direct messaging. If you're not like world famous with like 1 million followers, if you got like 10,000 or less, that's not insurmountable to DM all those people and get them involved and share a link and thank them and have a conversation. We call it, it's hand-to-hand combat. I hope that folks understand that regardless if you're raising money for a school or any nonprofit, that's exactly what you need to be doing to get in the weeds. It's very grassroots. It works. And no one's that fancy to where they can't do that. And it's effective. Yeah. Right. Sorry, Sandy, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. I was going to ask, so, a big challenge for people is, well, where do we get started? Who do we ask? How do we even put a list together? And so do you have any tips on, do you get a list of alumni? If it doesn't exist, is that where you start with a list of alumni? Yeah,
that's a great question. So usually the people that I'll work with, the first thing I'll ask is, do you have an alumni list? Sometimes they do. One group I'm working with has a list of 1,000 alums. Like as soon as we launch, that's going to be really easy, to get that going. Other groups have a Facebook page. Okay, we have some presence there. And then we will find out some groups have nothing. And they're going, what do we do? Right? But then we find out that it's not that we don't have people that we can ask. They just happen to be all living right here. So one of the groups I was in a cohort once, and they called it your PAM, your personal addressable market. And I thought that was fascinating because some of the groups, like when we got really scrappy, I would sit down with the program leader and I would sit down with 2 or 3 other board members. And I'd say, this is going to be a little bit uncomfortable. Here's the script. Everyone take out their phone. And I let them know ahead of time that they're doing this. But we'd have our campaign. And I text them, I want you to copy and paste this, okay? And we're all going to text everyone on our phone that we think might have a connection to this, and maybe a few more that might not have anything to do with this. And we did that. We went through each individual contact. This is the scrappy part again, right? Wow. Took about a half an hour. Say, hey, Trevor, hope you're doing well. My program is traveling to Tennessee this year. We're looking to raise 5 grand. This is going to make sure that every kid's trip ends up costing $100 each, and that's it. It's going to be over these days, etc. And at the end, if you know anyone that would be interested in supporting this, could you please let me know? That line was important. And I do think we just need to be more comfortable with just saying, like, Trevor, is this something you'd be interested in supporting, or do you know anybody? But for a lot of people getting into this the first time, they don't want the ick to come out, right? They don't want that ick to come out, which is, listen, I'm asking my friend about this and I'm going to see them tomorrow. And I don't want this to be like a weird thing. Right. But doing that was fascinating because people felt okay with it. They felt there was some plausible deniability, right? Like, I'm not just coming after you for this. And sometimes they put in there, hey, no pressure, you got to figure out. Sometimes some people would say, no pressure, I'm just messaging everybody. you know, that can take some of the pressure off. Also, at the same time, that could make people feel like, oh, you're just messaging
Like,
everybody,
right.
right?
Totally.
Yeah,
But that's where we would start to get those initial donations coming in. And we always found with these campaigns, we would get a ton of people that were, you know, it was interesting because if people were a couple years removed from a program, maybe they were in college or so, and we had like a Facebook connection for them, they would usually give $25 to 50. If people were in their 30s, 40s, not so much. We would then find the 45 and above crowd. That's when we would start to get the 250, the 500, the $1,000 donations. And I say this to anybody with a school out there, school program, like we know how much $1,000, you know, can do for some program. I mean, there's somebody out there right now where they're like 1,000. That's like 4 times as much as I needed. So that's where that's always been with me is start with your phone contacts. The most I got a donation from my dentist that I haven't been to in 10 years. Now I've been to the dentist in 10 years. Sorry, I changed.
Just to be clear.
I had a dentist that I used to go to, moved away, and I sent him a message. And I said, hey, you know, et cetera, how you doing, et cetera. My teeth are still doing okay, no cavities, you know, whatever. And he remembered me, and he donated to the campaign. Like, awesome. He ended up being a connection for a few other you know, groups that could help us out.
So you went that far back into your network?
Oh yeah. I'll message. I mean, I've messaged my 3rd grade teachers, you know, and not the 4th grade one. She wasn't too happy with me. The 3rd grade, 5th grade. Yeah.
Well, a couple things I hear, the most powerful fundraising tool that you have. We talk about that we talked about that since episode 1.
Yeah.
Also, you know, folks are constantly, regardless if they're raising money for school or any organization, they go, I really need to get my board motivated. I need to get my committee fundraising and motivated and what have you. And the easiest way, and this is an opinion, let me know if you share this, but it sounds like you do, Don. But it's like the easiest way to do that is to show them exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Just make it silly, easy. We talk about things.
Write the email for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Craft the message. All that. I mean, you've developed this practice, but I mean, that was a big aha moment when you're like, oh, I just got to tell them what to say and what to do, and they do it. Oh, okay, great. And we can reach this many more people. It's like, talk to folks about just getting in the weeds with that a little bit more, and maybe a couple examples. Like, this works if you tell them exactly what to say.
Yeah, no, exactly that. You know, we would develop the campaign. And that's all the easy stuff to put it out there, right? We developed it, and our Facebook page is live. Here it is. And now we're going to wait for our millions of followers. And by the end of the day, you realize you have 2 followers. It's grandma, and then it's somebody like spoofing grandma's account, you know, so it's not even a real person. They're like, oh, what do I do now? Right. So I have, for everybody, gone down to the nitty gritty of here are the scripts for you to invite somebody to the page. Right? Because as soon as we get a page out there, I'm not trying to hit you up for a donation immediately. But here's a script to invite you to the page. If they're making the Facebook page, for example, and I say Facebook because a lot of people are having a ton of success with that in education. LinkedIn, usually a higher net worth from people that use LinkedIn overall, but you know, you just kind of have to know your platform. Right. TikTok, I don't know if I'm sure people are raising money on that. I just haven't been, you know, in that area. But they get the scripts. They see what the Facebook page should look like. Trust is a huge thing because when I go to a page, I want to make sure it's real. You know, so if you've got board members helping out, it's a great thing to go, hey, here's, you know, Sandy's the mother of 2 kids. She's volunteering her time for this. She works in this industry. She's happy to be helping, you know. Trevor is this, etc. Don is this. And, you know, essentially here are those post formats. And then even as I said, when it comes to those messages, you know, they'll have the message, as I just said, which is, you know, this is what we're supporting. This is what we're doing. And it's funny because usually people have a resistance to doing those things for 2 reasons. Number one would be fear. You know, they're just not sure what to do. They're fearful of it. Once they get it in front of them, it's a little easier.
Is it
the second one was just bandwidth.
Or a fear of rejection?
Oh, fear of rejection. Yeah. And that's why, I mean, I really try to tell them, like, you need to get through 50,
No, yeah,
50 of these,
yeah,
you know,
don't be scared of the uncomfortable.
before, you know, you can really think like, hey, we have to change it. And you might be asking too, you're like, well, Don, why don't you just send the messages out? I can, but you know, if you're a school in Nebraska and, you know, let's say, yeah, Trevor is the football coach, but all of a sudden you're getting things from someone named Don. There are a lot of people that go, is this legit?
Sure.
Right.
Right.
You know, so there is that part. Is I really do think we have to have people involved with the organization to be the people that do reach out.
And people give to people they know and people they like and people that
Yeah.
care about what the money is for and being used for.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And usually these campaigns too are not, I did one recently where I had to ask for specific dollar amounts. It was a scholarship one, you know, and that, like, you know, I have no problem calling somebody up and going, would you consider $1,000 gift? Silence. Yes. Okay, good. You know, or silence. And then I was thinking more like 500. Great. Thank you so much. Right. But usually in these types of fundraisers, you know, if we're doing a campaign or something like that, we're not having to do too much of those specific asks. And I know this is a lot of what HGA does. What's great is that if you're doing some sort of fundraiser, like a raffle of some sort, okay, and it's a luxury item, anything like that, those are also ones where a really tight script is going to help our people. Really tight script. This is who it's for. This is what we're doing. But, you know, in terms of that, those raffles, those are a great way to get people that don't care about your organization to care. You know, I mentioned this to Trevor the other day. One group I'm working with, we're auctioning off a Yeti cooler. You know, $25 a ticket for a $400 cooler or something. We're going to the bar. We're getting a gift certificate from that bar. We're going to purchase the gift certificate. So then we can ask them if we could actually do the auction live there and bring in more people, because this is about a relationship.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the dollar store and fill it with some, you know, other small items. But for this group, last year they brought in $116. This year, with I think just the pre-sales on these tickets alone, they're already up to about $2,000. So at the end of this, they'll bring in like $3,250 after they've purchased the cooler.
Amazing. That's such a great start. No, I love that. Yeah, I just like the gamification piece, but like you said, a very tight script. This is where that money's going. You know, this is our goal. And talk briefly though. No pun intended. Talk about brevity of message.
I'm sorry.
I'm a big fan of brevity of message, Don.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I said no pun intended briefly, but like, yeah, just talk about the importance with that scripting and the succinctness of just being brief with the messaging. Yeah.
There's a West Wing quote, if I can remember correctly, and it was something along the lines of, anyone in my house that said something in 10 words when they could use 25 just wasn't trying hard enough. And that's where I lie. I'll talk and talk and talk.
I was going to say, that's a challenge for me.
Yeah.
Make things concise.
Yeah. I think it's okay with being brief and getting right to the who, what, when, where, and why. You know, we're auctioning off a Yeti tailgate raffle. It's going to be $25. All the proceeds are benefiting local competitive dancers from ages 5 to 18. We have a limited amount of tickets available. Would you be interested in supporting this?
I love that.
And then wait, and then stop. This is my problem, because I'll hear the silence, and then I'm like, right. So I don't care what you have to do. Like, I have to sometimes just pinch myself after I, say it, and then you just wait. Give people a chance to think.
Think, ask their questions.
I love it.
I
love it.
Sure.
Sandy, you got anything?
I was just thinking about, back to starting, right? And just picking up the phone. You know, when you and I talked, we just talked about how you hit the phones. And that's really how you started out with, the campaign that you put together. And so, talk a little more about that conversation, that initial conversation. Maybe it's a person who went to the school and hasn't been contacted in years.
Sure.
How do you get that conversation started?
Yeah, typically, it's again going back to it's very simple. It's going to the phone. It's calling that person up, introducing yourself, your connection from there, and developing that relationship in some sense. And this is where knowledge of the organization really helps, right? Especially if how some certain teams and certain groups have their traditions. They might be things you don't understand whatsoever, right? But you'll go to some college marching band events, and when the team wins, they wear their hats backwards at the end. They turn the marching shako, it's called, right? They'll turn it backwards. And those are things that if you're talking to somebody connected with the group, to me, just bring something up that's almost just like a secret language.
Yeah.
Hey, do you remember back in 18 when we beat this place, we finally got to wear the hats backwards? Sometimes when I'm at home, I'll be honest, I put the hat backwards just to relive that day. Anyway.
Some kind of commonality. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in thinking about that, do you use volunteers to help with these calls, right? Those folks that are, again, also alumni, right?
Yeah.
And pick up the phone and talk about that. And then they can make that connection.
Yeah, and no, absolutely. Because the volunteers have a different level of culture with it. So if you have a parent that has never played football, but their kid is in football, they can't maybe tell you exactly what a Hail Mary is, right? They can't tell you all the drills, but they can say, something along the lines of like, hey, I put 10,000 miles on my minivan just this year, taking them, to practice, or we've done.
Sounds like me with baseball.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's those types of small things. And it's never a complaint. It's how are you doing today? Well, guess what? The tires on the minivan are still good. I got every kid to practice there. It's finding that commonality. But the thing I want to mention too with these things is I think people think that they have to, when they call someone up for fundraisers at this level, I think they feel like they have to sell. And to me, sometimes to sell is to really convince somebody of them having a need for what you have or a need to support. But at the beginning, I think you can have a lot of success with really casting a broad net and, for lack of better terms, throwing some mud at the wall. Because chances are, if you're selling raffle tickets for an event, that person is going to know within 2 or 3 seconds whether they're going to buy or not. And if it's a no, to me, like if the relationship is there, obviously keep that going, but be polite, thanks so much. Sometimes I'll even ask, if we have something else like this in the future, would you like me to give you a call? No pressure, or you can word it, would you be opposed to me giving you a call?
Right.
Something like that. And then I would just keep a list, of that, but we just move on. And we would find out, again, I don't have to sit there and beg and plead and go, would you please? No, like that energy is much better spent moving on to the next call. And especially when you're doing something broad like that, think about everybody that you could call. I usually tell at school organizations, like, go online and find the Chamber of Commerce. Go online and find everybody at City Hall. Everybody there. And we're going down that list, telling them who we are, and again, making that call or sending that message. And one more thing, for the sake of non-brevity, if you ever do send a text or an email to somebody and you tell them something and you say, would you be open to a phone call? Or if they say they would like a phone call, at that point, it's about 99% sure that they are going to support you some way. Right? So if that comes up, then it is your job not to talk them out of supporting you.
Sure.
Yeah, good call.
Go
ahead, Sandy. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, so, we've been talking a lot about grassroots. Now, how about trying out new tactics? And, what would you say they should look out for when they're trying new things?
Yeah.
Because everybody likes to freshen things up, right? So what else
do.
can we do? Can we do a casino night? Can we do this? Can we do that? Are there some pitfalls or things that they should look for there?
Yeah, I would say listen to the market in that sense. I really am a big fan of systems and processes. And if you have something that just works, just leave it alone. All right. Because again, a lot of us are tinkerers. right? Well, if I just move my stance a little bit when I bat here, or if I just take this approach to it, leave it alone, right? So to me, sometimes I think you can leave the core message the same. If I were to do anything to change something that maybe works, it's just to remove friction, So like I said,
Trevor says that all the time.
yeah, just
friction.
make it like, if I feel like, especially with like the money that we're looking for, I have to be ready at a moment's notice to accept your support.
Yep.
And it can be as easy as, here's the email address that you can Zelle to. By the way, we're connected with this bank. If you want any, proof of the trust number, let me know. Or this is the website, for our Square link or something. But it's to remove as much friction as humanly possible. So for school groups especially, I see some that are starting to move cashless on some things. Like I don't know, because we'll have a lot of grandparents that will come in and they are still working with cash or checks, and we want to give them a way to support their kids. So we routinely, we will accept check and money orders and cash and Zelle, and here's the QR code. With the freshening up, I'd say see what works. As I said, that event last year, if you have an event that requires people to be in person for it, find some way that someone 3 states over can support. So like I said, in our sense of the spaghetti dinner, like, are you comfortable donating a dinner to somebody? Right. And for our online thing of it, it was literally a button that said donate a dinner. Those people could support the group. And often these people were not donating one dinner. They were like, here's $100 for 10 dinners to go somewhere. So even if I got that person in the room, I knew them, they had no kids or anything, it would be them and their spouse, and they may have spent $20 and maybe an extra, 10 donated somewhere. But that was a way that they could donate their stuff and not have to come and talk to people.
I hear so much. Things pinball around whenever I hear you speak, Don, about fundraising. Of course, we're talking about schools. This mimics a lot of small nonprofits. Yeah. There are values and fundamentals to this that large nonprofits could be using, because we hear a lot of like, there's so much uncertainty, and then the grants and the this and the that and all those things. And a few things I heard, and I love, of course, like Sandy mentioned, I love frictionless. Make it easy for folks to give. I also hear you, and this is something I would do, is, okay, yeah, you're in at that level and you want to write a check. Okay, we'll be right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
we'll be there.
You know what I mean? It sounds, once again, very scrappy, very fundamental, very grassroots. That's what's required.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got to make it easy for the cash register to make that tinging sound.
Yeah.
And if that's what it takes, and they're not 3 states, go get the check.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or we're equal opportunity receivers, as Jason famously says.
And don't be afraid to follow up. Some people get really concerned. I don't know. We've all been on LinkedIn. I will get 10 messages from one person before they say, hey, I guess it's not a good fit. Bye. Right. And you don't want to necessarily annoy your donors, but I know there have been things that I have said, yeah, I'm in, after 4 or 5. So in this sense, I'm not saying like follow up over and over in that sense. That being said, I've had some people that were like, I will donate. Cool. And then I didn't hear from them.
Yeah.
And we're immediately like, I don't want to bother them and stuff. So I don't know. I just wait 2 days, send another message. Right. Hey, Bob, thanks for your message. Let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah.
And then that's always through. Oh yeah. Okay. Hey, I'm paid on Friday. I'll get it to you. Then, cool. Do you want me to remind you or not? No, that's fine.
Yeah. Life happens. People are busy, right? I am in this work. I'm talking to nonprofits every day, and myself, I know I have friends who fundraise every year for the same cause, and they know follow up with me because I want to donate. I'm going to donate, but I need about 5 reminders, because life is life. I'm here. I'm at the baseball field. I'm at the soccer field. I just need to be reminded. Yeah. So that's not,
it's just all the no's, and I know we've talked about baseball a couple of times here. Like, we've always heard a good batting average is around 300, right? That's where in this line of work, I don't know. I don't think they're saying no to you necessarily personally. Sometimes yeah, they're saying yes to their items there. But that is that part of like, just so everybody out there knows, for me, usually a success rate with a campaign of something that's directly connected to the organization, sometimes 1 in 20 outreaches, sometimes 1 in 10 if it's a smaller number, so but I mean, I don't know, I think a lot of groups, once we get them going, like we usually get them really quick wins within the first week or two, and they can drive something up to at least a couple of grand if they've never done fundraising before.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, just a reminder, get your questions in. We're coming up to that time as well. And so we'll open it up for some Q&A, and get in there in the chat, and we'll read them out and see what Don has to say.
Yeah.
One of the greatest salespeople I've ever came across. I was very, very young. I didn't know that I wanted to get into sales as a young person. He was very successful, sold flooring in San Francisco to high rises, so big volume, all that stuff. And my dad was like, oh, you should go talk to him. My dad would lay the carpet. So they'd sell it. My dad would install the carpet. And I would get to go to the high rises as a young person and play on the elevator and hang out and stuff like that. It was pretty cool, right? And I talked to him, and I said, well, what got you over the hump, or what made you successful? Because you're the best. He said, I got really, really comfortable with people slamming the door in my face.
Yeah.
I just accepted it. I don't wear it. It's not personal.
Yeah.
If I get one person to say yes out of 10, that's massive.
Yeah.
So it's a numbers game. And like I said, just don't take it personally. There's just so much. It's amazing how much symmetry there is to that kind of stuff in other professions as well.
Well, here's a tip too, to anybody that is out there and trying to speak to somebody about this, and you get nervous. So I'll do a quick role play right now. Hey, Sandy, thanks for picking up the phone. My name is Don. I'm here to talk to you about donating to the Ozzy Osbourne music school right now. So thanks for taking the call. I'll just tell you right now, I'm not used to speaking to people and asking for support for organization. So if you hear that I'm a little nervous, it's absolutely true. And like, I have no problem speaking about how I'm actually feeling. And sometimes, like, immediately you'll get somebody that goes, oh, okay. And it kind of lets the guard down a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't go super deep. Hey, Sandy, just so you know, my rent is overdue today, so I'm a little stressed, and the kid's suspended again, and all that, right? We don't want to go that far, but just to go and just remind people right from the start, there's a human on the line. Mm-hmm. And listen, I'm nervous, but I care so much about this right now that I got to get past my nerves, and I'm speaking to you about this. And I think that has been something, I've had to convince some people to do that, because they're like, absolutely, you don't want to show any weakness or anything. Like, I get that, but the people that have done that, once they've done that 2 or 3 times, that really helps them out quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. It's so disarming and so human, right? It's all those things. And I think no one does that. No one really speaks like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of it kind of interrupts the loop. It's different. You know what I mean? Is the loop that we're all on. Get those calls or what have you, or have those interactions. There's two things too. Is like with that, telling folks exactly, you were talking about follow up and not being annoying, or if people are worried about being annoying, it's like, hey, not trying to be annoying. Yeah. Hey, not trying to bug you or anything like that. It's been a couple of days, just wanted to follow up. It's like, just put it out there, right? With that messaging. And then this is also interesting. A really, really talented major gifts officer that we had on the pod said, hey, if someone gave at a decent level, or whatever the level might be, any level, 4 years ago, and you haven't spoken to them because money was coming a little bit easier back then, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hint. She said, I would coach people just to say, hey, listen, I've done a bad job. I have not, you know what I mean? Like, just hey, you gave, I did a bad job. I'm here now to tell you I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If we can start fresh, and I can let you know the work that you know what I mean. Just lay it out there. Yeah. It's not the elephant in the room. It's not the size of an elephant. It's just the truth. You know what I mean?
Right. So, no, absolutely. Just speak to people like a human, right?
Great call. Yeah.
So we have a couple more minutes here, but so speaking, we were talking about being nervous. Ethan asked, as a first year teacher, how do I go to my school board with a big project without sounding like a naive new teacher?
Cool. You don't go to your school board. Everybody's got a boss. The school board is the boss of the superintendent. The superintendent is the boss of the building principals. The building principals are the boss of the teachers, etc. The school board's boss is the community, and the community all has a boss, etc. So this is an instance of going up the chain. So I would go to your direct supervisor with whatever your project is. When you're formulating that project, and I know Ethan, he's in music. So Ethan, for you, let's say you need to raise $2,000 for trumpets. All right. You are going to say, we're looking at, purchasing new trumpets for our organization. This is going to benefit 10 kids just this year. The instruments we're looking at are going to last 10 years, but our school takes care of stuff. So we're going to get 15 years out of them. Okay. So the annual cost per year of these instruments is going to be this one. By the way, these are the middle of the road instruments. These are the Honda Civics. These are the Toyota Camrys. All right. We can throw them against the wall. They might not be pretty, but they're still going to work. Okay. Here's the Mercedes option, which would be great someday. Okay. And here's like a Yugo. No offense to my Yugo drivers out there. Okay. Right. This is what it's going to cost. This is what it's going to do. These will be put into place as soon as we get a concert the next week, et cetera. You give them all the details of that. And then you bring that to your direct supervisor and you say, this is something I feel is pretty important. Can I get your advice on this? Could you help me make this a little bit cleaner? Is this something that if I were to submit it, would someone say yes to it? And if they said no, would it be a hard no, or would it be a no, not right now? But that's where I would start just initially on something like that.
Love it.
And here's a question. So Stephanie is a nonprofit who's hoping to partner with schools and for them to do fundraising for the nonprofit.
Sure.
And so, who would be the point person, do you think? Who should they start with at the school?
Yeah, I think what would be a good start is, for example, sometimes certain runs or walks will partner with a school, for example.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think, take a look online and see who sponsored that the last time. Have they done something like that before? Chances are you can find that email address or phone number on there. You'd have to make a case on how yours could complement that as well, how that would benefit the students. In schools, a lot of things, especially if it's a district level, it's going to have to go up quite a few chains. So being persistent and scrappy is going to help. At the end of the day, what I might do in that instance, if you're completely cold calling on it, you don't have any connection whatsoever, I would definitely, if it's a larger thing, I would start with somebody probably at a building level. So that could be a principal. A lot of counselors don't have decision-making power, with those items. But if it's a coach or a principal and administrator, you could reach out to them. Again, they get a ton of emails. So I might just put something out there like, hey, interested in speaking to somebody. I'm planning on, I know email gets lost, so I'm planning on giving a call, in a few days, but just wanted to send this out to see who I should speak to.
Thanks, Don. All right. Well, everyone can reach out, right, Don? I'm offering your
it's out there
conversation, but I'm offering you out there. But reach out to Don via LinkedIn. I don't know if we put up your email or not, but you can reach out for a continuation of that conversation. But it is time to give something away, like we do every week. This is my favorite part. So let's see. She put it up there. Thank you, Courtney.
Text. Yep.
Text HGA to 73747. Yeah. And like we do, Trevor will call someone live. And Trevor, what are we giving away today?
It's going through the HGA randomizer right now. So text, as Sandy mentioned, make sure your phone's on. I don't know. I was on my way to the office today and I was like, I want to give away the Caribbean all-inclusive trip.
Okay.
I know we're talking about schools. It's been our bestseller for years. It's such an easy, thing that you can put into a raffle or whatnot, or use no matter what your organization is,
or an auction if you have an auction.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that sounds like a great idea.
Okay, cool. Far out. As long as you're in agreement with that, I think we're
absolutely.
Caribbean all-inclusive.
What about you, Don? What do you think? Caribbean all-inclusive?
I think it's great. It makes me think real quick. When I was in school, they did a 50-50 raffle for a band concert I was in. They drew 3 names. The first name they drew, the person goes, donate the rest back to the band. And everyone clapped. The second name, they said, donate back to the band. Everyone clapped. The third name they called was my dad. My dad stood up and walked down to the stage and took the money and sat down. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
No, I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that.
Oh, my goodness.
That's awesome.
All right, Courtney,
All right.
so do you have a winner, Trevor?
Yep.
Okay.
Waiting on a winner. As long as everybody has texted HGA to 73747, they will enter to win. Yeah.
All right.
I'm waiting on a winner right now.
We like to call them live.
The HGA randomizer. Here we go. Getting a winner right now. I'm calling. Make sure your phone's on. And thanks for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Don, as well, brother. That was awesome. That hour flew by. Holy smokes. Awesome. Always get a lot out of talking to you.
Hi, this is Carrie.
Hello, it's Carrie. Carrie, hello.
Hi, this is Carrie.
Hey, Carrie, this is Trevor Nelson on the webinar. Just want to let you know you won the Caribbean All-Inclusive trip that you can use for fundraising.
Oh my goodness, Bluestem will be incredibly grateful.
Oh, fun.
As a tool.
Okay, great.
Thank you
Well,
very much.
oh, thanks so much for coming to the webinar. I appreciate it. Make sure, do us a favor. Make sure you reach out to Don on LinkedIn and show him some support. His content's amazing. But happy to help. And thanks so much for coming. We appreciate it. We'll get that delivered to you, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, Carrie. All right. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for your time.
All right.
I've never been on a show where they just gave away a cruise at the end.
Yeah.
No, every week. Come back.
It's an all-inclusive stay at a resort in the Caribbean. It's really cool.
Oh my goodness.
Well, Carrie's happy. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Can raise a lot of money with that.
Yeah, we get to make somebody's day.
Awesome.
Hey, Dawn, you made our day by spending time with us again, man. Always so grateful for you being so willing to help coach us up and the audience as well, man. It means a lot. Appreciate you so much, brother. It's awesome.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I really
Thanks,
appreciate being here.
everybody.
Right on. Okay, thanks. Hey, we'll see you all next Thursday. Have a great Thursday afternoon wherever you are. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you all. We'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.